Hey everybody, Brian Von VA here. Got a really good question for you out there. What character did you make in a one-shot that you plan to have in an actual campaign, part 1? I'll start things off, I guess. I rolled a half-elf barbarian, and not once did I use a rage to boost damage. Funny thing about my rolls in the one-shot that led to my int. I always rolled high when determining if I hit a thing, but rolled low for damage and strength checks, which still resulted in a split goblin, a goblin head bouncing off of another goblin's shoulder, and a hand axe, leaving the result of a mirror of opposition alive despite the "do I hit it" roll being a critical success. Anyways, now I have this mental image of a generally calm barbarian who is willing to fight, but doesn't go out of their way to fight and is hesitant to go berserk. Basically, they're a barbarian that isn't the stereotypical, overly eager, always about to rage, mindless barbarian, and I love the idea. Glad I decided to get into D&D. You can blame the pronunciation issue on JoeCat if I say this wrong, but Artificer, alchemist named McConaughey. I have never been able to use him in a legitimate campaign, probably for good reason. He has the aberrant mark, so he gets the Wildmage table, and every time he makes a potion, he makes a concentration check versus his spell save DC. If he fails, he makes an unstable potion, which is pretty much another Wildmage table. So when he uses a potion that is 2 wild tables, each with 100 different effects that go off, absolute chaos. So, in a one-shot, I made a pale elf cleric, Jorge. He was stupidly inventive, like make flashbangs out of very dark bottles, rocks, and light cantrip. He had a staff of dispel, which one a day, sometimes twice, if he prayed hard enough, could get rid of magic of any level. Downside to this is it also dispelled non-organic things to a pocket dimension due to him first using it on a door shrouded in darkness that led to a mirror world. And a half-elf warrior in full Crusader-style armor called Carter. That had a pipe that, if smoked when on low HP, had a 50-50 chance of giving him 1d10 of health or damage. Had a lot of fun playing him. Melt Daruk. He was a hill dwarf, level 9 totem barbarian with 1 level of draconic sorcerer. Had max con and the tough feat. He had over 160 hit points, could cast spells when not raging, and was resistant to everything but psychic damage while raging. This was one of the few times I tried making a min-max character. I played him in a one-shot where the DM created a town defense type encounter, and we had to defend a town against horses of undead. Do you mean hordes of undead? Despite this being heavily combat-oriented, we still had good roleplay moments. I was mainly positioned in front of a gate that was broken, so I was basically the final raid boss for these undead before they could enter the city. Played an evil one-shot before. The whole idea was to min-max hard as we could. So I made a silver dragonborn Oathbreaker Paladin with a few levels in Dragon Soul Sorcerer. I worked it that he had been a loyal warrior until his sorceress awakening, and finding out a proud silver dragonborn had white dragon blood in his veins started driving him mad. So he'd broken his oath and become a mercenary seeking out powerful artifacts to help him hunt down and slay any dragons with single-minded focus. I decided I liked him so much that if I got the chance to do Horde of the Dragon Queen, he'd be my guy. Fast forward a year to now. A buddy of mine invited me to join his game and said we'd be starting Horde of the Dragon Queen. So I revised my Dragonborn a bit, changed his alignment slightly, and started him as a Conquest Paladin. I've got his levels planned out, and I think I've got him worked out pretty well. Plus the DM is down for the progression I have in mind. I think it'll be a lot of fun. My go-to one-shot character right now is as far down the Macab path as I could take. He's a Vulture Aarakocra who goes by Dirge, an alias from his faceless background. He's a monk using the Way of the Long Death subclass. He dresses like an Old West undertaker, complete with string bow tie and top hat. As a part of the faceless background, he also wears a black leather mask, but because it's shaped to his beak, looks like a plague doctor mask. In my head, his fascination with death stems from the short lifespan of his race, with his studies of life and death giving him the knowledge of Kai and vital spots to develop his monk abilities. and his desire to live longer. First chance I get, he's going into a full campaign so I can explore exactly how this guy's head would tick. I made a summoner, cleric / sorcerer whose whole shtick was to summon 3 monstrous centipedes and then buff the hell out of them while debuffing the hell out of everything else. I liked the idea and I enjoy playing support, and the backstory I made felt interesting enough a DM could run wild with it. In the one shot we played, this character got one shot every time he was revived, so he wasn't fun to play in an all-out battle royale scenario, but maybe in an actual campaign he could be fun. I've written about this one before, but I wanted to include them here as well. Shura, a female half-elf sailor. She learned to fight on the high seas and travels in search of adventure. In truth, she is hoping that by making a name for herself, she may feel worthy to be among her mother's elven community or her father's human one. In the meta, she is a multi-class fighter sorcerer, go-to attacks being Green Flame Blade and Thunder Wave to take care of hordes of enemies. Using Shadow Blades, if UA is allowed, I wanted to make a sword mage, and I think this might be a way to do it successfully. I love this character's struggle of self-doubt and false bravado. I mainly make support characters that are capable of healing and support magic. Very few of my games actually have a character that lets out my sadistic side. I love to start fights as a rogue, but I also like to be friendly and caring as a character. I am capable of turning my character into my personality. I can match my roleplay with my personality. That took some practice, but I'm good at acting. I really enjoy having second personalities that I can only keep to myself. Edit. In recent games, I was capable of necromancy and alchemy. I made purification and healing potions for fun. I also love magical storage bags such as the purse that Hermione had. I had a goblin druid which I flavored to be a shaman of a forest. He would cast spells via a druidic focus flavored as a voodoo doll. He went by the name of Who Man Short Guy. He was a goblin who, in an attempt to stop people encroaching on his forest, went undercover as a very small human, hence the name. However, one of his flaws was he tended to forget his story and call himself a halfling or gnome at times when introducing himself to other NPCs. He was fun and wacky, and I got a great kick out of bargaining with my group mates for one of the dragonborn scales or a lock of the human wizard's hair so I could later cast voodoo on them. In the end, he ended up entangling all of the enemies in the final fight when we fought some enemies that had made their way into his forest, making things super easy for us to beat the bad guys. Side note, while in the forest I made a show to deactivate a lot of my own traps I set to defend my forest so my party wouldn't be felled by them, and the DM was eating it up. Would love to flesh him out in a real campaign as a more serious character since he was so well received despite my suspicious little goblin causing all sorts of little distractions. TLDR, I made a goblin shaman who was suspicious of everyone, so he constantly caused a lot of distractions. Slobber, you're nobbling. I can't read this one with a straight face, I'm sorry. The Hobgoblin Gigolo, who is a bard, obviously. He's trained in the College of Whispers and absolutely hates any kind of skin-on-skin contact. So he became the owner of multiple brothels to build info networks. As long as Nobbling lives, he will never try to seduce an NPC or big bad evil guy. Lizard Folk Wild Magic Sorcerer. He is scared to death of using his magic, so he uses close range attacks instead. But he's unaware that he is casting magic with his weapon, i.e. Booming Blade, as he attacks. He imposed self-exile on himself to protect his tribe, and now works as a mercenary for hire, waiting for the day his own magic kills him. Venom Vinny Bloodhorn, Minotaur Zealot Barbarian. Vinny was abducted by slavers from his tribe as a child. It's been so long that he has forgotten everything about his upbringing, including his own name. He was sold to a man who planned to turn him into a mighty gladiator. Vinny was always large. When he reached adulthood, he was near 9 foot tall, making him a giant even amongst other Minotaur. Unfortunately for his new master, Vinny is a gentle giant with the kindest heart you could imagine. While he strikes an intimidating pitcher, people quickly warm to him once they see the kindness in his soul and learn he wouldn't harm a fly. This posed a problem for Vinny's new master. He had paid a hefty price for the biggest beast he had ever seen. His solution was to take Vinny to a temple of Tempest, the god of war. There, Vinny was infused with the spirit of Tempest, and once a command word had been spoken, Vinny would become a vessel. When activated, Vinny would fly into an uncontrollable rage and kill anything in front of him. While he would always destroy his enemies first, he would quickly turn on his allies if he wasn't calmed in time. The only way to calm him? Sugar, a cookie, a piece of chocolate, or cake. It didn't matter. Just pray that if you activate Vinny's curse, you have something to end it too. A rampaging Minotaur with power gifted by a god is not easy to bring down. This may be a long one, but I had to make a level 5 character for a one-shot using 4d6 drop lowest. My highest roll was a 12. Decided to make an Orc Paladin named Bobby Blueheart. After race bonuses and leveling, he had Strength 16, Dex 10, Con 12, Int 8, Wiz 7, and Charisma 8. This was enough to have one prepared spell. I decided he was orphaned and raised by a group of humans in a monastery. So at age 13, despite being an adult by orc standards, he had been treated like a human of similar age. So, wearing undersized armor and Boy Scout attitude, Oath of Devotion, he and the other 2 party members head out to sea to find a half-elf who had gone missing. Upon finding half of a ship wrecked on the beach, Bobby used his skills to deduce that the half of a ship we found must belong to the half-elf we were looking for. The players and DM laughed as the party went into babysitter mode. I think everyone at this point assumed he was just going to be a liability. So, on to our next roll. We had to make a group stealth check, one of Bobby's better abilities with +0. The cleric tells Bobby he has to be extra quiet and not make any noise. Bobby says, okay, before quickly covering his mouth, realizing. He then silently casts Oath of Silence and brings his shield up to just below his eyes. Everyone looked at me in confusion as I explained that Bobby, having very little magic but lots of belief, is doing what he thinks casting magic is. After a few laughs and face palms, the DM gets everyone to roll stealth. Disadvantage to Bobby because of his chainmail. The cleric failed. The monk with a +8 to stealth failed. Everybody looked to me/Bobby as he rolls and just passes his stealth. Oath of Silence for the win. Then there was our first fight. We found a shifty guy placing a skull in his bag. When he saw us, he started backing off slowly and the monk decided to tackle, which made us roll initiative. Bobby goes first, having just seen a skull go into this dude's bag and his friend, the monk, run towards him. He puts 2 and 2 together and realizes this is clearly a heretic and needs to be dealt with. He uses his one spell, Divine Smite, at level 2 and attacks with his Warhammer, Nat 20. 8d8 + 6 hammered him so hard that Bobby killed and buried him in one swing. Damn, that's nice. We probably weren't supposed to kill him, but what can you do? Not sure when I'll get to play him again, but I may use him as an NPC in a game I'm DMing, or have him as a backup PC for anyone who forgets to make a character sheet or dies at the beginning of a session with no backup. Brian Von VA here, wishing everyone well and hoping you had a good time listening in. If you did, make sure to leave a like on the vid, subscribe to the channel, ring-a-ling-ding-dong that bell, and join up on our subreddit r/MrRipper, where you too can submit your stories for us to read in a video or live on stream. Using a help action, you can always click my big mug on screen to jump over to my channel and subscribe to me, Brian Von VA, where I talk about everything voice actor related and entertain you with some good gaming streams. With that out of the way, I hope everyone is staying safe and still holding on tight. We're almost done with the year, and what a year it has been, am I right? 2021 is right around the corner, and as of late, it certainly looks to be a brighter time for us all, so brace yourselves for one final push, look after your mental and physical health as best as you can, because you are worth that and all the much more, and please, be safe and don't forget to smile, no matter how hard it actually is to do. It's all going to be fine. We will see you next time. Bye for now. All the love.